Welcome. I'm Pamela Erika from livingjoyfully.ca, and today Anna, Erika, and I are excited to speak with Living Joyfully member Nora McDonald. Welcome, Nora.
Hello. Hi.
So to get us started, can you give us a bit of an introduction to you and your family?
Yeah, sure. Okay, I'm Nora. I'm British, as you may hear, and I am married to a Costa Rican man called Luis, and we have two kids, Ruben, who is 8, and Liam, who is 5. And me and Luis met in Costa Rica, and we've sort of gone back and forth quite a lot, but we've spent more of our relationship in Cambridge in the UK, but actually at the moment we are in Costa Rica as of 7 months ago. So this is my 3rd time living in Costa Rica, Ruben's 2nd and Liam's 1st. So it's a bit complicated, but but yeah, and yeah, so I was going to say about the how we got into unschooling, because I always like hearing about that. So yeah, I was sort of thinking about it feels like a kind of gradual journey towards it. So I kind of discovered gentle parenting and that kind of thing when Ruben was a baby. So that made me feel like I was doing something slightly alternative. But that was kind of it. And then when I was going to have Liam, we went back to the UK from Costa Rica at that point. And so we actually had the same doula that we'd had with Ruben. We had the same one with Liam, and she is a home educator, I think, still. And so we ended up having much more conversation with her about home education than we did about babies. And so we kind of looked into it after that and ended up home educating. And I didn't really have like a philosophy for a while. I was kind of exploring things. Ruben has always been very anti being taught things. So we were relatively laid back. But the big kind of dive into unschooling happened about March 2021 when Ruben was really kicking back on the very, very strict rules that we had about tablets and TV and stuff. And so I was kind of aware of unschooling, and I was like, that always seems to make sense. So maybe I should go and see why lots of unschoolers don't have these really strict limits. And I distinctly remember being like, I'm never going to go that far, but at least maybe I could go and see what the thinking is. And luckily I had an unschooling friend, Lorna, who sent me loads of links and told me about the podcast, and she was in the network on here. So I think I listened to 2 episodes of the podcast, and then I was like, yep, this is for me, and joined the network. So yeah, that I can't believe it's only been like a year and a half, but since that happened, because it's been like quite a journey, and I've just kind of been sinking kind of deeper and deeper into it. So yeah, and it's completely changed my life, as I like to tell people, because it's been so many great skills about being in a relationship with other people, communicating, identifying where my beliefs come from, like challenging everything, saying, is this working for me? All of this kind of stuff that we talk about has been amazing. But yes, so as to fast forward to now, so the kids are super into tablets and video games and YouTube, and it's a huge interest for both of them. Lots of Minecraft, lots of Roblox happening, and it's actually really nice because Liam, I think quite recently, has got up to Ruben's level with Minecraft and Roblox, so they're playing together loads. It's really cool. And Ruben's also been playing with a kid from a network family in South Africa, so that's been really nice. And they also like kind of swimming, bowling, any kind of physical fighty play, kind of wrestling or acting out Minecraft or any of that kind of thing. But yeah, so it was funny because I was thinking about this, and I was thinking about what they enjoy doing, and they have a lot in common, but they're such different personalities. So Ruben is kind of very kind of sweet and caring and likes kind of the same things and the same people, but once he likes something, he really likes it. So he's completely delighted if one of his favorite people will join him in one of his favorite games. Like, he's sort of really into his interests. Whereas Liam is like the comedian. He has this amazing comic timing, and also he really knows how to enjoy himself. I just so often look over at him and think he's just the embodiment of the phrase living your best life, because he's just like, he's great at just like chilling out, and I don't know, he just seems to know how to have a good time, I think. But yeah, and then I am a stay-at-home parent, thinking about maybe trying to do some work, but I don't know what to do with my life, so we'll see. And yeah, because the kids both really like being at home, so I have got quite into podcasts, which has been really fun. So obviously the 2 Living Joyfully podcasts, but also, yeah, just like anything about psychology, human relationships, history. I used to really love history, and I've really been diving back into that, which has been super fun. And yeah, I like reading and cooking and eating. I'm quite excited about that one, because my cooking mojo totally disappeared during lockdown, and it's finally coming back, so I'm getting back into baking stuff, which is cool. And Luis is super into kind of maths and science and engineering, that kind of stuff, and just loves building things and taking things apart, and also kind of swimming and water polo is a big, he's going back to his water polo team here, which I think he's really happy about. And he just says he likes learning stuff when I asked him, which is really great, because it means he's really good at listening to me telling him all the stuff that I've learned, whether it's Unschooling or like any other podcast. He gets like he's a very patient listener to my like summaries that I give him. So yeah, so that's us.
That is so fun. I love that he's a good listener too, because that is a part too, like, of our process sometimes, right, is kind of synthesizing it for ourselves so that we can share it with others. So that's a fun piece as well. And I loved hearing just a bit about like that technology journey. Is, you know, it's a pretty common one, absolutely, because it's so unconventional. Even though, you know, we're starting to hear more stories about tech not being as vilified, you know, conventionally yet, you know, I love that, because I remember when I first started reading about homeschooling, right, and the kids first came home, and I was just hearing those bits about unschooling. It's like, okay, that sounds really curious. I mean, I'm not going to go all the way. But when you start learning more about it and it starts making more sense, that's it. You don't have to make like the decision right at the beginning, right? You don't have to say, okay, I'm doing full on unschooling, let's start, I'm going to go learn about it. No, it can be, you know what, I'm curious about this, I'm going to learn some more and learn some more. And it's like baby step by baby step. I can, you know, just say, oh, like, this feels good, this is looking good, what else you got to offer? And then I take another step, right? Did it feel like that for you, Nora?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, well, with the technology thing, it was kind of interesting, because I also did a webinar with a British psychologist called Naomi Fisher. And I think, so my unschooling friend Lorna was like, don't do anything really suddenly. And I was like, but after I'd watched this webinar, I was like, no, I can't do it anymore. I can't enforce it. So that did happen like quite quickly, but it was because I was so convinced. But there's definitely been like lots of baby steps to get to where I am now, and lots to come, I think, as well.
Forever.
Yeah.
I love that so much. It reminds me too of the beginning of my journey too, where some things were just like, this is it, jump right in, and other things were like, well, I'll never get there, and then you realize it's just this journey, and it just kind of naturally happens. So I have really enjoyed a lot of the aha moments that you share on the network. I feel like you're so great about sharing kind of the process, and as you're realizing things, you know, and kind of taking us through the realizations, and then how things used to feel and how they feel now. And I just think that's so valuable for everyone. There was a story that you shared around like shedding the sense of urgency that you had about like pushing through things, getting through a car ride, and other examples like that, and just how transformational it was to drop that sense of urgency. And so I was hoping that you could tell us about that here.
Yeah, sure. Okay, so basically we had this big change because in Cambridge, in the UK, we didn't have a car. I don't drive, so we had this wonderful cargo bike that I really miss, and or buses or walking. But we're in San Jose in Costa Rica, which is not the most walkable city, and there's not much public transport that takes us where we want to go. So we've had to do cars a lot more, and the kids were even less heavy about this than I was. They really hated it. They were sort of getting there now, but especially at the beginning, excuse me, they really just did not want to be in the car. And so my first instinct was just, we have to do this, we've got no choice, we're just going to have to push through, they're just going to have to hate it. All we can do is go as fast as we can and hope that there's something nice at the other end. And yeah, that was how I was expecting things to go. But luckily, because I'm in the Living Joyfully network, and there's so many conversations about being creative, about different people's needs and respecting their needs, and everybody's needs being important, and probably loads of other kind of useful mindset shifts, and yeah, plenty of time. Luckily, I was able to just stop and go, what on earth am I thinking? Like, I can easily make this better for them. And it just took 30 seconds for me to think, do you know what, we'll just stop whenever they say they need to stop. So we just stop worrying about being late for things, which in Costa Rica is fine anyway, which helps. But also just like, I'd rather we arrive happy than and slightly late, and just prioritizing us being okay. So yeah, we just decided we were going to stop, and we also always get an ice cream now whenever we go anywhere. So just these really simple, basic things. So we've done stops that are like 5-minute stop at a park that we happen to be going past, and we've done a stop that was like an hour in a little town getting an ice cream and like having a wander around. Ice creams are often involved, but it seems so simple, but it was amazing to me that I just was on this kind of autopilot of this. We just have to push through, we just have to do it, bad things happen, and all you can do is push through them, both for me and my kids, I think. And it was just amazing how revolutionary it felt to me to just stop and go, okay, no, we can think creatively about this, we can improve the situation as much as we can, and obviously there's a limit, but it makes such a difference, I think, as well, just the kids knowing that we're trying everything that we can to help them feel better. And yeah, I feel like I probably still am working on making this automatic, but I'm definitely trying to make it a habit. So the other example of this that I thought of was we trying to get the kids comfortable going to the dentist, and we found this very lovely dentist. But what I'm hoping that we're going to be able to do is rather than just say, okay, we're going to do everything we can to get their mouths open and so she can see, I'm going to contact her and be like, can we just pay your fee for an appointment, and then just hang out. We'll teach you to play Minecraft. They'll get used to the room. They'll get used to you. We don't have to like just push through everything. So yeah, that it feels so simple to me now, but it's been like this huge life mindset change for me.
Oh my gosh, it makes such a difference though, right? Because I mean, we can just really tunnel in on, okay, this is what we're supposed to do, have to do, how it has to look, and let's get it over with, this bad stuff, but right, we can change all of that immediately, like you said. And it really just takes a few seconds to think about, okay, we can, now start brainstorming and think about the different ways. And I do love that, the network for that, because I do think we're kind of steeping in that creativity. We're steeping in all these different ways that people have done it. And so it really is, I think it's easier, when we have that community around us.
It really is. It's so surprising. Like you talked about the moment was like, hey, I don't have to do that. Like there are so many things where we feel like, okay, life isn't perfect. There's going to be some things we dislike. Let's just get through it as fast as we can. that is just such a normal way to see something, first approach to something. And that little switch that says, oh, but hey, you know, what if we didn't? It's like, that's a little thought experiment that I love to play with myself. Like, is, you know, when I'm feeling stuck with something, no matter what it is, it's like, what if it was like the opposite? What if I wasn't stuck? What if I thought that this was great? What if we could have the most fun ever on car rides? What if we love this dentist? Like, how would I be acting then? That's what opens it up for me to, like, yeah, oh, we'd be stopping when we saw something fun, or we felt like an ice cream. We'd be bringing fun things to do in the car. We'd be laughing, chatting, or headphones on and right into, you know, whatever it is for us as individuals. But that thought experiment is that quick shift for me that just helps me realize, oh, there's another way to look at this. There are so many more possibilities that we can play with. I love it.
Yeah, I was thinking how it is like kind of that mainstream paradigm thing of like, there are just things we have to do. There are things we have to do, and the kids better get used to that. There are just things we have to do, and you have to just push through. And for that to be like that's like a lesson, you know, to teach a child is this lesson of like push through. But right, like I feel like this kind of lightness in my head, if I can just kind of open it to, but wait a second, like you were saying, like, wait a second, it doesn't have to be this way. There's so many, like in any situation, there are so many different places that you could be looking for a different way to do things, or a different something to switch up. And so I think, you know, kind of being in that adult position of, but I should just be able to say the thing and they have to just push through, and like that maybe it will somehow be more convenient for me as an adult if I could get the kids to just push through. Like, but then if I actually look at reality, like pushing through is so hard. Like, it's so hard to do with kids. It actually makes my life a lot harder if I don't try to address, you know, the different needs that they have and the places that they're uncomfortable. So I just loved that.
Yeah, so fun. Okay, so another huge shift that you shared on the network was around how, with the best of intentions, your priorities, the direction, kind of leading your kids towards ideas, you know, fun ideas, and what you thought would be great was really stopping you from knowing them and kind of how they wanted to spend their time. And so we just thought it'd be cool to have a discussion around that, because there's a lot there with that piece.
Yeah, no, this felt like a really huge, like multi-level aha moment for me. Because yeah, like as I said, so I started off when Ruben was a baby, like getting into gentle parenting and positive parenting and conscious parent, whatever. There's lots of versions. And so I remember kind of getting into unschooling and reading about it and sort of feeling like respecting and honoring your kids' interests and doing what they want and saying yes to them more and all of that. It all just seemed fine. Like I was like, yes, I'm on top of that. That's easy. That's fine. That's done. I know them. I know everything they're going to want to do. I was at home with them the whole time. So I was like, I know these kids. And yeah, it took me a long time to start realizing that actually my head was so full of these ideas of what we should be doing as a family, what children should be like, what parents should be like, what childhood should be like, what activities are better than other activities. You know, I was totally signed up to, we should be reading, we should be outside, we should be going to groups, we should be going to museums, which is all great if that's what your kids want to do, but really my kids didn't want to do any of that. So the sort of big realization felt like this kind of, I think of it as like a two-stage process. So the first little aha moment was back in Cambridge. So Cambridge has quite a few nice museums. And so every so often I would drag the kids to a museum because this was educational and good, but still fun. But they were never very interested in them. And so it always felt like a bit of a flop as an activity. So then one day, I guess I'd been kind of reading about unschooling and processing it all. And one day it just suddenly occurred to me that there is a museum in Cambridge called the Fitzwilliam Museum, which has a room full of weapons. like swords, crossbow, armor, like lots of sharp pointy metal things. And I just suddenly was like, that's where Ruben would like to go. That's what Ruben's interested in, because he really loves like all kinds of fighty computer games. He likes cutting out weapons of increasing complexity, like by eye with scissors and with paper, and just like playing with them. I was like, he likes weapons. Why am I not taking him to the weapons bit? And we actually never ended up going, but he did express interest. But it just felt like this real moment where I was like, oh, like I'm starting to see these options more from his point of view, for like thinking about his what genuinely interests him, not what I think kids should know about. And then the second kind of aha moment was in Costa Rica. So a few months ago, I actually walked past this bowling alley. And I was like, oh, I should suggest bowling to the kids with zero expectations, because I did not think they would be interested. And they were both like, yes, we really want to go. And I was really surprised. I was, okay, fine, we'll give it a try. Worst thing that can happen is they don't like it. And they loved it. And this was in a place, really loud music, loads of people. You have to wear weird shoes. Like it's competitive, but it's so competitive that you can see who's win. Like there's a big screen telling you who's winning. And I just never in a million years would have thought that they would like that. And we've kept going. They still like going. We've sort of tweaked the competitive element, so we kind of mess about with who has goes when and everything, but still they keep wanting to go. And that felt like an aha moment, because that was not something I would have thought that they would want to do. That was not something I would have thought they would enjoy once we got there. So it just made me realize that I was getting so much information from that about who they were, about what they wanted to do, because I had stepped out of the way and I had like dropped my, probably still working on it, but mostly dropped my like expectations, my ideas of what should be happening, what we should be doing. And so I got this information that they wanted to do bowling. So it just made me realize like how much all of this noise in my head had been stopping me from truly like both seeing my kids based on what I know about them, but also just giving them the chance to lead and teach me more about themselves and give me more information about, I mean, I still don't really know why they like the bowling, but but it's, you know, but also just the difference between seeing them going and doing something that they actually wanted to do, how much easier it was to get them out of the house as well. There's so much information that I just would not have had if I had still been like, okay, Monday we do this, Tuesday we do that. Like it just was so useful. And so now, like, if they surprise me, I'm delighted, because it means that I have stepped out of the way. I have given them the chance to show me something that I wasn't expecting. And then that gives me more information to then be able to say, I think you might like this other thing. And so still doing the like weapons room type stuff. So still saying, okay, I think you might like this, and still being able to look at it from their point of view based on the information I have. But it's kind of like a virtuous circle where if I'm stepping out of the way, I'm way more able to offer them stuff that they're genuinely going to want to do. So yeah, that's been really fun.
Oh my gosh. Go ahead, Pam.
Yeah, there's so much in there, Nora. Okay, so I'm going to start with, I love the nuance that you're talking about of dropping expectations. So often when it's like, yeah, you know what, it's not helpful to have expectations that we as a family or they as a child should enjoy this, or we feel like this would be good for them, like all those expectations. But there's the piece too, where when we can drop those expectations and kind of stand aside and have a harder time for a while not sharing other possibilities. You know what I mean? Like, I don't want to put anything on them, right? I don't want to have these expectations. So I'm just going to let them lead. And I just kind of stand back. Yet, like passing the bowling alley, that's really off, but you know, it's here by us. We could go there, and mentioning it. It's that nuance of not having any expectations when we share something. So yeah, absolutely. We can think of the things that we know like knowing them, the things we think they might be interested in, and then also sharing random possibilities that are actually around in our lives as well. Not as in, oh, I need to share something every day and they need to like say yes, no, whatever, but to bubble our lives with these other possibilities that give them the opportunity to surprise us, to choose that right now I do want to try something totally new, right? It's so different when we're more with them and we can share things without the expectation, like not having expectations have us stand back a little bit. Does that make sense? But we can lean in more without those expectations and just bubble away and discover so much more about each other, right?
Right. I mean, for me, what stuck out was just that, attachment that we can have to, like, it should look this way in childhood and all of these pieces. And like you're saying, there's so many nuances within this piece, but I think it does come back to the expectations and attachments because and I loved the piece about the bowling because I think we can also fall that direction into kind of boxing our kids in a little bit, like, oh, they've never liked big crowds or loud things, so I'm going to steer clear of that, and that's again with love and great intention because we've seen that. But I just think kids change and grow. And when it's something that sparks their interest, who knows, maybe they saw a YouTube about bowling or one of their favorite characters was bowling. So they're just like, I want to see what that's all about. And even if they hated it, they still got that information. So I think, it is just that stepping back, but yet staying engaged, that seeing through their eyes, like we talk about, because it's just all these nuances. But I think we can easily see for any of us how we can kind of get on this path, and then we've kind of lost sight of the children that were there hoping to facilitate.
Right. It feels like you're just like giving this space to them to be able to just be who they are and that they get to decide, like who they are. Because my kids surprise me all the time, exactly like how you were describing. And it's like, sometimes I'm like, what? Like it really can throw me. But that's kind of like, it's part of the fun of our lives, like being able to give enough space for them to change their mind and do something different and surprise me. And I really got so much out of when you were describing the feeling of we all want to do this activity. Like that reminded me of those moments, and they can be few and far between sometimes because the kids are so different from each other. But where we all are like 100%, we want to do this thing together, like how easy and fun those types of activities are. So to kind of look for those. I loved that story too.
And that reminds me of something, I think you said it in the network too, Nora, but it's just kind of expounding on what you said, but how different it felt, like how kind of you had told a story about, well, it's kind of hard to get them going anywhere because they like to stay in the house. So it's this process of like, getting them to go and making it fun and doing all this. But then when you saw this delta of like, when they're leading the way, it wasn't hard at all or so much easier, so I thought that was really interesting, a thing that we can kind of watch for, those energy shifts.
Yeah, I do think that is a huge shift. It was for me, the realization that it was less about, when we talk about like commitments and things, it's less about, figuring out a fun way to kind of cajole everybody to the place where we think they should be for whatever reason. And then that ties in with letting them quit things when it's not interesting to them, because what we're really looking for is those things that they're super excited about, where it is so much easier to do because it's theirs, right? It's something that they want to do. It's like night and day, yet we can get so attached to the things that we love, right? Or that we think that they should be doing.
Yeah, no, so I was just going to say, yeah, no, I wrote a whole thing in the network, like a post in the network about it's so hard to get my kids out of the house. Like, what can I do? And I had this whole story that it was this really stressful process. And I just spiraled into like, this stresses me out. So I'm stressed. So I'm making it stressful, on and on and on. And yeah, it turned out that mostly my kids just like being at home. And also Ruben especially likes being at home, but he will like dash to the car if it's something that he genuinely wants to do. But because I'd never given them that chance to tell me what it was they would dash to the car for, then I didn't know that it was possible. So yeah, it's been a fun journey.
Yeah, that's amazing. I love it.
Yeah, I want to say thank you so much for taking the time to join us today, Nora. We really appreciate it. It's so fun hearing little snippets of the journey that, you know, when people think through them and can see and can kind of communicate what their process was. I think that's so helpful for people to hear. So thank you so much, Nora.
Thank you for having me. It's been super fun.
Yay! Us too. Have a wonderful day.
Thank
Bye.
you. Take care.